Mikey D, and welcome to the Delta League podcast. Delta, the only sport in which 3 teams play at the same time. And this week, the action continues. Now, we're going to start out in Memphis, where the Pharaohs play host to the Atlanta Inferno and the Los Angeles Fallen Angels. And in this one, Memphis wins 33. Atlanta 18, Los Angeles 16. There was a protest outside the stadium. This time it was a animal rights group making things miserable for all the barbecue places in Memphis. Not too bad. Then came the power outage, which apparently was caused by a lightning strike in the Memphis area. Luckily, everything went back up within 45 minutes, and the hometown crowd got to see the Pharaohs put on a hell of a performance here. Now, Memphis player Neil Conlon, already on the shelf with a groin tear, has a broken toe in a freak accident where he dropped a 50-pound free weight while working out at home. It's a 3-week healing process, so now he won't be back until week 12. At least he didn't run onto the court and beat somebody to death with it. Now, for Memphis, leading the way, Allen Adam with 9 goals. Atlanta, led by Armando Chiodo with 4 goals. And Los Angeles, led by Captain Eric Rob Nicholson with, now get this, 3 goals. 3 goals. Not good. Now, in the end of this one, Memphis picks up the 4 points. Atlanta, 2 points. Los Angeles, 0. Now, let's move on here to Seattle, where they are hosting the Chicago Pride and the Vancouver Orcas. And in this one, Seattle prevails. Seattle 36, Vancouver 32, Chicago 20. Now, Chicago player Oscar Zenga did not play in this game because he asked to be scratched from this game while he deals with a stalker. It's apparently a man, and he's obsessed with Zenga, and it recently took a dangerous turn, and he enlisted the help of the police to deal with this once and for all. Now, boy, was this a chippy game, and Delta League's resident mental patient, Rob Donoff, got into a verbal spat while sitting on the bench, injured. Like, he's got a hamstring injury. For once, he doesn't crawl out onto the court on his hands and knees and violate somebody, but he does get a yellow card to add to his trophy case. Now, this game was disastrous for Chicago in more ways than one because star player Cameron Baptista broke his humerus. And that's not funny because that's a 6-week recovery time. When it rains, it pours, and then some. And it's a freaking torrential rainstorm in Chicago now because word is Ivan Goss, Chicago assistant captain, has failed a drug test for the Bolivian marching powder. He's come up positive for cocaine. This being his first offense, he's been suspended 4 weeks. Now, a bachelor party full of Chicago Pride fans made it to this game and made it pretty memorable by dressing up in lion costumes, getting absolutely blackout drunk, and getting shown the door by security. I sincerely hope they don't remember any of this or see the footage. This is going to be a bad hangover for the guys and the Pride. This has been a very bad string for Chicago. Seattle star player Evan Parawal was harassed by some jackass flying a drone, and it's a sure thing that it got good footage of Parawal scoring a ton of goals before security found the guy making his own broadcast of the game. Now, we go from hurricane to global superstorm because shortly after this game, Chicago player Hunter Ross declared his immediate retirement from Delta League, citing the numerous injuries he's sustained not only in Delta, but college basketball, golf, baseball. He's beat up and can't do it anymore. He's going to go work with his brother's home renovation business in Milwaukee. God frickin' speed, but Chicago is really up shit's creek here because they can't augment their roster anymore. They're going to have to go the remainder of the season down to with 11 players. So, Seattle leading the way, Laurie Moss, 9 goals. Tommy Anastos, 7 goals. For Chicago, Georgios Dokidis, 7 goals. And for Vancouver, Romeo Da Rosa, 8 goals. And in the end, Seattle picks up the 4 points. Vancouver, 2 points. Chicago, 0. Let's move on now to Manhattan, where the New York Fire Demons are playing host to the Montreal Maelstrom and the Salt Lake City Sting. And in this one, Montreal finally delivers. They get a victory. Montreal 36, Salt Lake City 25, New York 15. This week started with Montreal captain Kipper Grimmett stepping down as captain of the Maelstrom, saying he was frustrated with the media in Montreal. And being from California, he doesn't speak French, and he feels the media has not been fair to him, and called them arrogant. And this really got the media angry. And the team head office started going crazy, and they made a democratic decision for Kipper to take a step back and named assistant captain John Styan as the new captain. Because he's from Ottawa and his French is better. I think Manger la mer tabernacle would have been better, but this change works out better for everyone involved. Now, Montreal player J.J. Syverson talked to the media on Sunday, and he's extremely upset at the dismissal of his GM, Demi Marcellus, and he spoke very fondly of her, saying she was the one who brought him there, and says the team genuinely liked her, and implied that there was probably more to the firing than just a disagreement on vision. Now, New York leading the way, Rhino Montalban, 5 goals. For Montreal, Angela Carlucci, 9 goals, and Stefan Greiss, 8 goals. And for Salt Lake City, Chris Hines with 6 goals. And in the end of this one, Montreal picks up the 4 points. Salt Lake City, 2 points. New York, 0. Let's move on now to Denver, where the Sky are playing host to the Boston Revolution and the Phoenix Rising. And in this one, the Rising win it, 27. Denver 17, Boston 14. So, social media was abuzz from Denver Sky fans who want a new owner. So, millionaire Rick Salmon gets on social media and lays down the law, saying, I'm the owner until someone buys the team. The fans don't get to pick who their owner is, who the GM is, or who the players are. So this whole fervor started a GoFundMe campaign where hapless Denver Sky fans tried to raise $250 million to buy the team from Rick Salmon. I think they're stuck on $75,000. this is not gonna fly. Well, I hope Mr. Salmon has some personal protection because Delta fans can be pretty crazy and they might try to kneecap this guy. So, Phoenix got out to the court very late because they were locked in their own dressing room due to a digital lock malfunction. This was solved very quickly by kicking it open and sending the bill to the Denver ownership group. In addition, the national anthem before this game was particularly bad. Another amateur career has been destroyed. And the game had one incident where Boston player Dharma Devine got a black card for a pretty evil hit out of bounds on Phoenix player Jules Dassault. She's going to the house of sleep for 1 week. In fact, this game was pretty fiery period as Wesley Jazz Dans got carded as well as Grant Nahn sitting on the bench in a medical boot. He started spouting off from the bench and he got carded for that. If he could stand, you bet your ass he would have jumped on the court. Stupidity is like breathing to Delta players. Now, leading the way for the Denver Sky, we have Alexa Saragosa, 4 goals, and Larry McMaster, 4 goals. For the Boston Revolution, Dave Toro, 3 goals. And for Phoenix, Nan Freeling, 8 goals, and Gabriella Davignon, 7 goals. So, in the end of this one, Phoenix gets the 4 points. Denver, 2 points. Boston, 0. Now, let's move on. The city of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where the Titans play host to the Detroit Rock and the Dallas Lone Stars. And in this one, Dallas wins it. Dallas 30, Toronto 26, Detroit also 26. What a mess this game was. All kinds of yellow cards for scrappy play, but the jewel in the crown of shit happening is the third period where Toronto player Demetrius Lindbergh pushes Felix Kolb right into Devlin Hannibal sitting on the bench. And what does this guy do? Freaking punches the guy, jumps on the court, and goes after Lindbergh. There's not many more spins left in this game of Russian roulette. That's a black card any way you slice it. So, take those 3 games and look at the 2 black cards he's accumulated, and that equals 6 games. What a freaking idiot. Where do they find these guys? Anyhow, this isn't over because Till Phillips can't watch this and can't keep his composure. Phillips plays Team America World Police, throws Hannibal around. Vladimir Odette gets involved. He punches him. He punches Rad Marnane of Detroit. Now, Tokyo Kortelewe, remember that guy? Just visiting his teammates on the bench. He gets up. He tries to break it up. Till Phillips ragdolls the guy to the floor. The officials run in. He throws the refs around. The wheel of fire goes round and round and round. And in the end, Till Phillips gets, drum roll please, 15 fucking game suspension. Not only has he got a big black cock, he's also got the big black card. This guy is done until Halley's Comet returns. Did somebody put the Tribulus in this guy's protein shake? Because I've never seen a player go off like this. Freaking insane. Now, Detroit player Stanislav Muto has strained his hamstring. He will be out 2 weeks. I don't know what's in the water in Detroit. Probably lead, because Jack Ith has joined Tokyo Kortelewe and asked for a trade out of town. Apparently, he's not from Detroit and doesn't like the area, and he's given GM Mike Facciolo a list of teams he would prefer to be traded to. The GM, this guy, he went right on social media and lambasted them both, saying, "You're not the GM, I'm the GM, You don't tell me where and when, I do. And he challenges them both to a weightlifting competition, saying, if you can do more hammer curls than me, I'll trade you wherever you want. Have you seen this guy, Mike Facciolo? He looks like a brick shithouse. The Hulk, freaking veins popping out everywhere. These guys have zero chance of getting traded to a contender. Fricking freak of nature, man. It's wild in the Delta League this week. So, for Toronto, Lyles Houston, 8 goals, and Demetrius Lindbergh, 8 goals. For Detroit, Rad Marnane, 6 goals. And for Dallas, before this guy gets suspended for the rest of his life, he put up 9 freaking goals. What a freaking schizo. Anyway, in the end of this one, Dallas gets the 4 points. Toronto, 1 point. Detroit, 1 point. Now, let's move on to the nation's capital, where the Power, playing host to the Miami Vortex and the Philadelphia Shred. Now, and in the end here, Philadelphia wins a close one, 25. Washington, 23. Miami, also 23. They crack freaking 20. Now, Miami player Bob Nyhan showed up to the arena a little disheveled because he's been dealing with a stalker. She's apparently been following him around the country for some time now. If I were him, I wouldn't complain because he probably has a better chance of scoring with her than on the court. Now, for Washington, they were led by Brad Blagg with 6 goals. Miami, look at this once again. Marquette Weaver, best trade of all time, 6 goals. And for Philadelphia, Suzuki Sato with 6 goals. And in the end of this one, the Shred get the 4 points. Washington, 1 point. And Miami, they get a point. They got 2 now. Oh, let's plan the bloody parade. Now, let's move on to the standings. In first place, Seattle with 28 points. Second place, Vancouver, 24 points. Then, Memphis, 22 points. What a rise this team has had. Next, Toronto, 21 points. New York and Dallas, 20 points. Montreal, 19 points. Phoenix, 18 points. Chicago, 17 points. Then we draw the playoff line. Right below them, it's Atlanta, 15 points. Salt Lake City, Philadelphia, Detroit, 14 points. Boston, 12 points. Washington, 11 points. Los Angeles, 10 points. Denver, 7 points. Miami, 2 points. Oh, wow. We're going places. Now, on to the scoring lead. Leading the way, Evan Parawal from Seattle, 43 goals. Vladimir Millet from Seattle, 41 goals. Stefan Greiss, Montreal, 38 goals. Laurie Moss from Seattle again, 36 goals. Nan Freeling, Phoenix, 35 goals. Cameron Baptista, 35 goals. Angela Carlucci from Montreal, 35 goals. Rhino Montalban, New York, 33 goals. Then we have Nathaniel Mansfield, Dallas. Alan Adam, Memphis. Travis Valencia, Toronto. Demetrius Lindbergh, Toronto. And Chip Chiozzi from Philadelphia, all with 32 goals. Now, we're going to move on to the league news, but before that, a big swig of dihydrogen monoxide. Now, just in, New York head coach LeBron Aksakoff has been fired, citing poor performance. they've named Mohammad Ristolainen the interim coach until they can find a more suitable replacement. How about a replacement for the GM, Carmen Forgione? He's the one whose trades sent his team into a tailspin. Fire that guy. That is the prudent move. I mean, that's too bad because this guy has the coolest, most unpronounceable name in Delta. Sukabliat. That must suck. Now, Dallas captain Will Curry has come out as extremely critical of Commissioner Darcy DeMello for his heavy-handed approach with Till Phillips. What the hell is this guy talking about? He needs to kick that guy's ass, not admonish the commissioner for the punishment he lays out. That's his job. Do your job. Now, on to the mailbag. And we got another email here from Big Tory. Expansion. How will it work? How will the teams be constructed? And when do you think it will happen? In the case the league chooses to expand, and if and when it does, it will be by 3 teams. The most current frontrunners at this time are Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, and Portland. There are some ownership groups in St. Louis, Houston, San Francisco, Minneapolis, Edmonton, and Cleveland that have shown interest, but time will tell. Now, when the league expands, it needs to create 3 teams of 12 players, which means 36 more jobs. The league needs to institute an expansion draft in which each team will leave 4 players unprotected, and the new teams may pick a maximum of 3 players from any team. Those teams may then refresh their roster with free agents, the waiver wire, and the draft. If you have any other questions, I would be happy to answer them, Tori. Now, on to the real Piero Barone. He's back. What did I tell you last week? I called that trifecta. I bought my kids matching Land Rovers. The call definitely came in on that one, and though I hate this Toronto team, I think there's no way they lose this week. It's the lock of the century. Now, I have no idea how you pulled that one off. I have no idea about the phone calls that you got. I never received them, but they appear to be paying dividends. Give me their number. Now, Toronto, yeah, they need this win. And just praying for a Seattle loss is not enough. They're going to need some heart to persevere through the wilderness of their own bad luck and stupidity. Now, Matty V, Till Phillips, Rob Donoff, the whole sordid cadre of characters. Should these players be charged? They're literally bringing bad press to this sport, and it's only in its infancy. What would it take to ban these guys from the league? I mean, like right now, these crazy players are creating some press, and some would say bad press is still press. How many people tuned in to see some guy jump out of the press box and tackle the ref? It seems insane, and once this season ends and the first draft occurs, we're going to see how expendable some of these players really are. Especially when the individual teams know there are options to keeping these mental patients on the roster. I mean, keep the skill, dump the liability, right? There are some that say allowing all these shenanigans is empowering the fan base to take liberties of their own. So where does it stop? There are people that download this podcast to find out if someone kicked the shit out of Boot Farr, or how long Till Phillips' dick is, or what star player snapped his leg. It's part of the insanity of this game that many players would not have it any other way. And that's part of the lure of Delta League and why the ratings continue to rise and why the house is always packed and why we're the fastest growing sport right now. So, let's move on to the next week's games and the predictions. We're going to start out with Toronto playing host to LA and Denver. The result of this game is going to be simple. There are 3 teams without a regulation win this season, and 2 of them are in this game. And neither of them has a chance of knocking off the Titans, even if they're hobbled condition. Right? Toronto wins this. LA gets 2 points because Denver has never been so bad. They're bad. Now, on to Detroit Rock City. We're going to take on the Vancouver Orcas and the Phoenix Rising. This is the week where we see what all 3 of these teams are made of. The hometown Detroit has been content with picking up 2 points every week, and there's going to come a time when this is no longer satisfactory. This Phoenix team has looked like a bona fide dark horse, and other times I wondered why I thought of them so high. Last week, Vancouver was a runner-up to Seattle, and they need to win to stay within kicking distance of what has been an absolute juggernaut. And the Pirates, who have been essentially pillaging all over God's green acre. So in the end here, Vancouver needs the points. And they look like they're too much for either of these 2 teams to handle. 4 points. Now, nation's capital. The Power will host the Sting. And look at this, the Pirates. I don't think that God can stop this Seattle team. And week after week, they put up impressive offensive displays, slashing one opponent after another with an obsidian blade. And this week, what do they get? They get Salt Lake City and Washington? I mean, I think SLC stays on their hot streak and get the 2 points. But I don't see any competition for this bulldozer that is this Pirates team. On to New York. And one thing is true. New York and Chicago have been terrible lately. And these problems have, for the most part, been self-created. Now, Chicago loses a star player to injury and another to retirement. New York has been bad lately, but this matchup could be just what the doctor ordered. I'm going to take Dallas for the win here anyway. Dallas has shown none of the killer instinct that's required for teams that want to win at this level, but look who they're on the court with. It's target practice. Now, on to Montreal, and they will host the Memphis Pharaohs and the Boston Revolution. And Memphis has been very good lately, and they put together so many wins that this middle of the pack team is literally kicking at the door of first place. Montreal has been very consistent in the fact that you can never depend on them when you need them to pick up a crucial win. And Boston just took the red pill. And they're about to see how bad it can get. So, Memphis for 4, Maelstrom 2, Boston 0.0. Now, lastly, Miami. They're going to host Atlanta and the Philadelphia Shred. And last week, Miami picked up points for the first time in 6 weeks. Don't plan the parade yet. They've got 9 more weeks of being tossed around like a party favor before the pain is over. The most they can do is play spoiler to a bunch of pretenders and separate the wheat from the chaff. Now, unfortunately here, the Shred and the Inferno are much better teams. I think Miami is going to capitalize on some positive momentum recently and maybe get 20 points again. But I'm taking Atlanta. I'm taking the over and the Shred to finish second. That's it for this week. And join me next week for Delta, where the action never stops. See ya.